Right, now today we're going to finish off this painting. I'm going to put in this area here, which is a collection of reedy sort of things on the side of a little stream, I think. And this little bridge we've got goes over the stream. So the first thing to do is to get a really nice dark so that I can do that. I'm going to start off with Viridian. I'm twisting the brush in the paint to get as much paint as I can. I know that looks a bit berserk, isn't it, to do that colour. But if I add a bit of burnt sienna to that, again twisting a lot of paint onto the brush, it goes into quite a nice dark green. I will add a bit more because it's still a bit like Viridian, and that's better. So there you see, you get quite a nice colour. I used to be very frightened of Viridian because it was such a beast, like Prussian blue. But it is controllable if you know what you're doing, or if you make an effort to control it. Right, I'm going to start with a flat brush, which I'm carefully I've just wet it to wet the bristles, and now I've taken most of the moisture off, so that all the moisture in the paint will come from this that I've mixed, which means I will get the colour that I want. And I'm going to I'll just take that in to give me a background colour first, and then I'll start to play with it. Need to be careful here to go around the posts so that I don't make a mess of them. Just this here. But also, sorry, started one way and I'm finishing another. That's the way life goes, isn't it? That is there. Comes down to here. There's the little gate. So we just know where we're going. Now, if I take, still got too much moisture on there, so if I'm going to take some of it off now, I'm going to make a much thicker paint using this brush. I'm going to splay the bristles a bit. I'm pressing the bristles with my finger to spray them apart. By doing that, I get a sort of broken shape at the top, which is much more believable. And probably going to be a brush. So it looks a little bit reedy towards the top. Now I need something much darker along the bottom here. So I'm going to use a round brush this time. Again, taking up a lot of paint into the bristles. if I rinse out that brush again, this is the flat. And I just whisk that up now. That's the wet paint I put on. I'm whisking that up to get a bit more reedy shape there. Right here, there's a little bush. Which gives us the slope there. Rather a nice little thing. Right. And if I can splay those bristles, it just adds a bit more depth to the shape. Now, another thing we need to attend to is the gate and this area here. Now there is, I add a bit of Prussian blue to that. Get quite dark. There is a sort of path here which goes across that one to there and across that one to there, like that. Just gives it quite a nice shape. And if I take that Prussian blue and let it down a lot, I can suggest some shadows on the posts. Put it on the side of the inside there. Now this gate has a series of little lines because it's made of slats. So if I start at the bottom, I think, start here, take the line down there. Right, and then there's a bar across, and then we have it here. And then we need a bit more of a kinder green. So I'm using Viridian with yellow. And it doesn't need to be so dark. I want to replicate that green if I can. I don't know if I can. I should have done it at the time. There we are. And we need to put that shadow in again. It's just a little bit pasty, isn't it? If we put it in again, that shadow. If we take this green and just lift the bottom of the gate a bit. There we are. I think that'll do. Now, let's look at these trees here while we're waiting for that to dry to see if I need to do anything more to that. And what I'm going to use this time is a little bit of sponge. Now, this is natural sponge. It goes very hard if you leave it alone, so I've soaked it in water. And now what I'm going to do is to take some of the the color that I've made to create this area up here, these branches up here. Now, this won't work if the color you put on top isn't dark enough to cover some of this area here. If you make it too pasty or too pale, for instance, if I pick up that lighter green and tap it like that, it's not going to hide or join up some of the darker areas. Whereas if I take some of this darker area here, as you see, if you keep twisting, you get different shapes. So they're not going to be all the same shapes. Now this is quite strongly marked up here. So this is quite strong. But you've got to keep it light and airy. Otherwise you get something that looks a bit difficult. I'll try again. I need to make more color. If you're using a sponge like this, you need acres and acres and acres of color because it soaks it up so very definitely. Right, we'll leave it at that for the moment. So I pick up my paint again from that area and continue . Now that's gone a bit pale, hasn't it? So what I'm going to do now is to make a real dark. So I'll get the Prussian blue, take up as much paint as I can. Remember, Prussian blue is a real killer. This should work really well because Prussian blue is such a dark color. You take up that should give me a real dark. It's quite similar to the mix I used to actually create the trunks themselves. And I can go over what I've done. And because the light one is underneath it, it gives it a sort of three-dimensional character. Keep stopping to have a look to see if you're doing what you want to do. And personally, I don't think it matters if you don't make enough and you have to keep mixing it because you keep mixing slightly different colors. So it'll be slightly darker or slightly lighter or whatever. Now, I wonder if I put red with that Prussian, I should get a dark.
Did you put black with it before?
No, I used Viridian and burnt sienna, a bit of Prussian blue. Now this time I'm mixing scarlet with Prussian blue, which gives me a deep, deep purple, a nice dark color. I'm not washing this in between colours because it doesn't matter if they're slightly contaminated. Try again. Now you see, as I work across it, I'm not going over exactly what I did before entirely. I am leaving some of it so the lighter colour shows through, trying to get that sort of airy look that that you get. Now, I'm not very fond of that shape. I think I'm going to add a bit up here. I think that's a better shape. Right, so that's one thing you can do to get it. As usual, I've got 2 dirty pots of water. Now, there's another bush here, which is going to add to the overall composition because it's going to block off this end a bit and make it less like a straight line across. You need to do something to cut these lines. How we're doing, not too bad. Right, so I'm reverting to my old trusted round brush, and I'm going to take, I've been working with Viridian, so I'll stick with it. And put some so I'm putting in some brown to tame the Viridian. I don't want to tame it too much. I'm just going to change it a little bit so that it's not too obviously like this down here. I'm going to take in a little, I think this is Indian yellow. So there we are. It's more of a limey colour. And I can just push the bush in here. I'm just trying to push in the shape with maybe put a little one in there. Now I need to do something to bring this into the rest of the picture. So that's not dark enough, by the by. I left it like that. You can actually see that line running through the bush, and I don't want to do that. That's one of the things that you very often see in amateur watercolours, and I don't want to be an amateur. Right. Now then, I conceived the idea of putting a path in here, and I think that would work quite nicely. If I take my Indian yellow, which is what I used to make this, add a bit of Viridian to it. Now remember, I made this darker, so what am I going to do? I'm going to do, yes, I am going to path, blah, blah, blah. Right, okay. So I'm running that along there, like I did last time. Dry the brush and take the colour this way, getting it paler as we come towards the front and therefore more interesting. I'll do the same thing over here. I haven't quite worked out what we're going to do about the path, but we'll work on the path in a minute. So we come down here. Now, I don't want that edge to be quite so sharp. So I'll just run some water around there. I'm taking some of the darker colour now and trying to suggest that this I think we can probably I'm trying to suggest a grass path, something I've not tried to do before, so if it doesn't work, that's life, isn't it? Right. I think that really ought to dry before I do any more on that. As usual, trying to hurry things can actually create a problem. That's looking a bit unhappy. It needs something there. And I need it in that dark colour. Rather than in the yellowy colour. I think I need a bit of that dark colour down here in this. I think this is not actually married to this up here at the moment. So if I introduce some of that colour in these rough grasses at the edge of the it just brings this area to join that area because you've got a bit of the same colour. The thing about when you start making these little marks is you've got to go on until you finish them. It's so easy to think, oh gosh, I'm on a hiding to nothing here. You know, proceed. You'd be surprised what can happen if you continue to play. Because they're nearer, they ought to be more clear. I think I need some real dark in among those reeds.
9 minutes.
Right. Well, I always forget this part over here. Probably because I'm less convinced by it than the rest of them. There. I think that's reasonably adequate. It gives you some idea of how to tackle the problems. I think this way of doing the top here gives you a very airy look for, I think they must be birch or maybe they're ash trees, and gives you quite an open look about it. And you can see the contrast between that and this as a much more solid bush. I think that works quite well. And by pushing those back and bringing those forward, I've turned a rather flat picture into something that's got a bit of dimension. And by changing the configuration here, I've made a more welcoming way into the picture. In this picture, these lines across the picture actually stop you going in. And by removing them and giving yourself an entrance into the picture, it improves matters no end. Right, that's it, friends. Do your best. And do let me see what you've managed to do.